Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this webinar sponsored by Flexera in partnership with City Global. This webinar is part of our We Speak Geek series, and today's topic is the priorities for Configuration Manager admins for 2018. The We Speak Geek series is something that here at Flexera we promote recurrently, and it is a series of webcasts and webinars that are supposed to help System Center admins and System Center users with insights and tips. So today's webinar, we are going to cover the landscape in 2017. So we will look at the challenges that you guys have been having in 2017, and how is it that is the oversight for 2018. At the very end, we are going to talk a little bit about Flexera and how we also help you with your needs, and we'll go through a Q&A session. To cover these topics, of course, we are bringing experts here, and today we are going to have Kent Agerlund and Jason Sandys, both of them from City Global, and I would like to ask each of them to give a quick introduction on City Global and on themselves to you guys.
Hey, hello everybody, wherever you're at in the world. Could be the morning, could be the afternoon. This is Jason Sandys. As Marcelo said, Kent and I are from CT Global. We are both effectively principal consultants, although generally I work for Kent. So if you ask us, he's a little bit above us, but we've both been, above me, we've both been Config Manager MVPs for a long time now. That's why we don't put pictures on these slides anymore, because the pictures we use are like 10 years old, and we kind of laugh because we have lots more gray hair now. We'll attribute that to Config Manager and other things that Microsoft does. Kent?
Yeah, so I'll just second whatever you said, Jason, there. And thanks for inviting us here to the webinar. And as just as Jason is saying, we are both principal consultants, and we work at customers more or less all day, and we have seen a lot, and being asked to talk about what we have seen in 2017 and what we believe will come in 2018, that falls really natural to us, because as I said, we have been doing a lot of projects, so we definitely have a lot of experiences to share here. And as Marcelo also mentioned, this is also a Q&A session, so we love to have whatever questions that you might have. Back to you, Marcelo.
All right, thank you guys. So as Kent is saying, so this is a discussion. If you have any questions, just type them in. We are going to address them either through the webinar, if they are relevant to the topic that we are covering at the moment, or we are going to cover them at the end. But just please type in your questions at any point if you have them, so that we can they can look into them, because they are the specialists, and start getting ready to give you the answers to the questions you may have. So we are going to kick off today's webcast by having Kent and Jason talk about what really were the main challenges that they have been seeing, what are the challenges that they have been confronted with, what are the challenges that they hear from Configuration Manager admins in 2017.
Perfect. Thanks, Marcelo. So this is Jason again, and I'll go ahead and start this one off. I would say that this one hopefully is not a surprise to anyone listening. It's basically one that we've been fighting for the last 24 months, and the way I put it to most customers, and I'm starting to put it in the forums, is this is a component for Microsoft that is in the ICU. So that's the intensive care unit, for those not familiar with that acronym, right? So on life support effectively, and that's WSUS. Anything and everything to do with software updates, Windows updates, patching, however you want to term it. WSUS, as some of you may or may not remember, obviously those of us with a little more gray hair than the others do, came about with Windows 2000 Service Pack 3, if I don't remember incorrectly. So that's a long time ago. We're talking like 2001, 2002. Right, and if you do the basic simple math there, that's more than 15 years, right? 16, 17 years we're pushing on that basic infrastructure. It's been upgraded a couple times for sure. There's been some additions, but for the most part, it's been stable for at least 10 years in and of what it is. So what does that mean? It means that there's lots of cracks that are appearing, and these fall directly into anybody else that's using WSUS, which of course Config Manager itself does use, right? And so one of the major challenges that folks have seen this past year, well, there's really two of them, and one of them came about a little while back. It's not a new one. Like I said, it's been out there for about 24 months. It's just the size of that catalog. So if you think about it, right, we go back WSUS those 15 plus years. That doesn't necessarily mean every single update ever is in the WSUS catalog. That's the catalog that has all of the updates in it from Microsoft. So this isn't every single update either, so that's often a misnomer that's out there. This is every update that gets put in the catalog, which is a subset of all the updates out there, but it's still 15 years of updates. Now, granted, a lot of those updates have been superseded, and that's really one of the things that you can do right off the bat is we need to clean that WSUS catalog. But that catalog in of itself being so big causes all these other problems because now all the clients have to download this catalog. They have to process this catalog. Your WSUS infrastructure, whether it's in Config Manager or not, has to download and process that catalog. And every now and then there are issues. They release bad updates to that catalog every now and then. So not only are the updates potentially going to break something in your environment, right? There was an update recently that they broke dot matrix printers. Now, I don't have any customers with dot matrix printers, or if they do, I didn't know about it. And honestly, it's good because I probably would have told them to get rid of it. But, you know, there are customers where they have a legitimate need. So it was an update, I think it was just 2 months ago, or maybe it was even last month, that all of a sudden broke dot matrix printers in their environment. Great. So update quality, that's one issue that comes with the software update catalog or the WSUS catalog and the sheer number of updates that are out there. But another one is them accidentally releasing updates to the catalog that shouldn't be there. They've done this a couple times recently. There was the Delta updates that they released 2 or 3 months ago. I think it was July, honestly. Maybe since then. I don't remember exactly. But within the last few months. The Delta updates are never meant for end users or end organizations to consume, yet someone accidentally published them to the WSUS catalog. And so they popped up in Config Manager, and the Config Manager ADRs went off and started approving them, and all of a sudden that started breaking things. Great, right? So lots of, you know, I'm sure you've all seen movies, and this is a great line to use, and I can't say I've ever had the opportunity to use it, but I guess politicians use this line a lot. Mistakes were made, right? And I've seen that in a few movies recently. Well, that's exactly how we can describe WSUS as of recent over the last 24 months. Is, you know, whoever is in charge of WSUS at Microsoft and really the WSUS catalog, that's pretty much the only answer they can have is mistakes were made. And so that's been a huge issue. It's just really updating our infrastructures. And it's so important, of course, because WannaCry, right? That was a perfect example, not WannaCry only, but WannaCry being the prime example of why this is such an important thing. I think the U.S. government yesterday finally came out with an official statement attributing WannaCry to North Korea. So, you know, whether North Korea really did it or, you know, hired other people or whatever, that's all completely debatable. But the point is that it's such a big topic and it affected so many people that nation states are involved in attributing blame and, of course, trying to figure out what to do to protect the organizations that they're supposed to protect and, of course, the people that they're supposed to protect as well. These aren't trivial things. And even if you're just managing 100 client systems out there, it's still something that can easily derail your entire business or completely, you know, make your business go belly up. So it's something that we have to get right. And sometimes, you know, Microsoft does a good job most of the time, but every now and then they make our jobs a little more difficult. Ken?
Yeah. So another one of the main challenges that we have seen in 2017 is the whole servicing piece here. Servicing has been kind of announced as something, you know, super simple, And as Jason is saying, we have, I think Jason has more gray hair than I have, but we both have gray hair, and that means we have been around. And I know when someone in the IT industry is saying, hey, this is new and super simple, there should be a little voice in the back of your head saying, I need to check this myself. And with servicing, what we have seen is that Windows 10 servicing, we have seen Office 365 servicing, we have seen Config Manager servicing, and now also Windows Server servicing. And I'm not saying it's not working. I'm saying that we have some challenges around it. And for most organizations that have been deploying Windows 10, they have been ramping up a Windows 10 deployment project. And before they were even done deploying Windows 10 into production, they were caught by surprise because all of a sudden they found themselves having to manage 2, 3, sometimes even 4 different Windows 10 versions, and they didn't have a really good servicing model. And that clearly has been a challenge here. And the same goes around for Office 365. I will say I've seen myself some strange issues with Office 365, especially around updates. And Jason talked a little about WSUS. Now, Office 365 is not using the same channel to updates, but I've seen that one day everything goes fine. The next day we can't download any updates, and then the day after, all of a sudden, we can download updates again. So that whole servicing piece is not only a challenge for us. It's also a challenge for the vendor, and we need to. I know we're not going to talk about 2018 yet, but for servicing as a whole, we need to have something like a servicing playbook or cookbook, so everybody in the organization understands what happens when we get the next release, because we will get the next release. We'll get the next release in 6 months or maybe 8 or 9 months, something like that. But everybody needs to understand their role in that whole servicing stack there. That has really been a challenge, and I would say, thinking that for Windows 10 servicing, for instance, that you can just use WSUS to do your Windows 10 updates, that doesn't fly for many enterprise organizations. There is so much more to this than just updating the operating system. I mean, there are so many other moving topics in here that we need to address. So that has been another one of the main challenges. So, as Jason was saying, WSUS and then servicing. That would pretty much line up what some of the challenges that we have seen in 2017 here. So Marcelo, sorry, back to you.
Yeah. So as we are summarizing what you guys have raised as the main challenges, as you say, so software updates through WSUS and the servicing of Windows 10 deployments of Office 365, Configuration Manager, Windows servers. So if we pick each one of those topics and we go over them and ask you, so Jason spoke already a little bit about that, but can you guys elaborate a little bit more on the difficulties when dealing with software updates, especially having in light here the fact that we had an episode like WannaCry earlier this year, and not only that, I mean, also what is your viewpoint on updates that are non-Microsoft updates within Windows systems?
Yeah, perfect. So it's almost like we planned this deck, isn't it? I've shared out it's really a forum post here, so this is kind of the intro to this. And this is really software updates, and this is, you can see obviously this is an answer of mine on the TechNet forums. And you can scan it real quick, of course, and take a screenshot, whatever you want here. But this is a canned answer of mine. Notice I gave this, I guess, back at the beginning of November, but this is probably, I don't know, the 10th time I had typed all this information in. So since actually posting this specific answer here, I've left it open in my browser because I've copied and pasted at least 10 more times between the TechNet forums, the Reddit forums. There's been a couple of other places. There's a MyIT forum, DL. I think I pasted this all in there as well. And these highlight some of the issues.
Jason,
a couple of these in here. Yes, go ahead.
Jason, sorry for interrupting you, but I think you're not sharing the right screen because what we see is just the gray screen and your pointer. We don't see the content of the screen.
Well, that's not good. Thank you for pointing that out. Let me just share my whole desktop because it tried to do just that. Okay, hopefully my whole desktop is there now.
Yeah,
we'll be there shortly. Okay, yes. Now you all can take a screenshot, and now you know explicitly what I'm talking about. So this is the forum post that I was referring to. One of these issues in here, and you can see that under the little references section, the second one is actually Kent's blog. This is one of the first blogs pointing out one of these major failures of WSUS, and it had to do with some limitations in the WSUS app pool in IIS. So that was one of the things, and it's all stemmed from the WSUS catalog just bloating, right, becoming big and causing all these other repercussions because of how much data was required for that thing to get transferred around. Microsoft finally did post a blog. I think it's, this first one right here, on how to combat some of these things. And one of the things I referred to before, or I alluded to before, was cleaning up the catalog. And I also talked about the superseded updates. So one of the threads that I had recently with someone is they said they use the built-in WSUS cleanup tools. And there is a cleanup tool within WSUS. You can go in and click some things. The one thing it kind of alludes to, or that it seems to say when you click on this, is that it's actually cleaning up superseded updates. Well, it doesn't really do that, not at least for Config Manager itself. What we actually need to do is go in and decline all the superseded updates. So the customer I was at a couple weeks ago, they didn't have a crazy big catalog. They had the standard things, Windows 7, Windows 10, a few of the Windows Server versions. I think Office 2016 was in there as well. So nothing spectacular, kind of a core catalog subset. And they had about 26,000 updates that were in there. And the reason I know that explicitly is because the script that goes in and declines it, it's from this blog post, tells you this. And almost half of those updates got declined. So when you decline an update directly in WSUS, what that means is that Config Manager will now consider that update expired and will no longer include it in the catalog that the clients get. And the clients also won't scan against it. So basically almost half of the updates that were in the WSUS catalog are gone. That's a huge reduction in size. And so that's one huge thing that actually happens there. Now, going on from that, there's really one blog post. If you didn't take a screenshot, if you want one specific blog post, and this is from an admin in Illinois, I think he's in Illinois, yes. Brian Dam. He wrote this a couple of months ago, not quite, I guess right at the, wow, I think he updated it because there's no way he just wrote this 2 weeks ago, or maybe he did and I'm just not remembering right. But basically he has a lot of these links in here as well, and he gives you a really good summary, walks you through all of these different things, and talks about all of the different little implications of how to clean up, how to optimize WSUS. At the end of the day, should we have to optimize WSUS? Should we have to clean up WSUS and do these kinds of things? The easy answer there is no, but that doesn't change reality. Reality is we need to do this kind of maintenance. And it's going back to, hey, WSUS is this old. This is not something they planned for. When the guys designed WSUS way back in the day, I guarantee you they weren't looking nearly 20 years into the future in how Microsoft was going to use it and pushing out major updates like, Kent alluded to the feature updates that come with Windows 10 servicing. Right, those feature updates themselves are multiple gigs in size, 3.5 to 4 gigs in size. And then we have the cumulative update model, right, that came along, and they put that in place for Windows 7 now, and it's been in there for Windows 10 the whole time. As those cumulative updates roll along for each build, those are starting to get big as well. Those are starting to breach that 1 gigabyte barrier. So that's huge. How do we deal with those kinds of things? WSUS itself wasn't explicitly built to deal with that. And that's when we start getting into Express updates and those kinds of things. But And there's lots of potential ways to handle some of this, but if your WSUS itself is not handling these very well, you're going to have issues. And so you've got to make sure you do this. And this isn't just a one-time thing either. This is something, it's an ongoing thing. You want to go and defrag your database. It's another one of those that we've never had to do traditionally in Config Manager or the WSUS world, is making sure that not defrag it, re-index it and rebuild its statistics. It's not something we've necessarily had to do. But as a Config Manager admin, right, you're not just focused on Config Manager itself. You're focused on the Config Manager infrastructure as well as the health of all of your clients. So it's a big job, and it's something you can't slack off on because all of these things interlock and certainly depend upon each other. Okay, let's see here.
All right. Jason, so one of the attendants asked for you to post the link to this blog on the chat. Could you do that?
Yes. I will do that right now.
Thank you.
That's service, sir.
So, thank you.
But
so,
what we will do, Marcelo, sorry. What we will do, Marcelo, also is we know Jason and I are presenting a lot of information here, so we'll put together a blog post after this, and then we will share the links and some of our thoughts also in that blog post. So just in case if we forget, we'll post a link window.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and
so
I was going to say that the good thing about this blog post and even the ones that I referred to is many people that have heard me speak and write things before, I hate best practices because best practices don't tell you why. You need to know why so that you can apply whatever someone is saying, that generic recommendation to your environment. And so Brian's blog post is really good about explaining these things as well as all those reference blog posts. They talk about the whys, the hows, so that you can make sure that, hey, this actually makes sense for my environment. That yes, this is something I want to do and this is something I should do. Not just blindly say, oh, I'm going to run this script and everything's going to be magically happy and I'm going to go have a beer. You know, it really doesn't work that way. And so that's what these are great at doing.
Yeah, and I mean, what we are going to do with the blog, so everybody that is attending this presentation, what we are going to do with the blog is as soon as it is ready, we are going to share resources and the blog with you directly on a follow-up message. So look up for that so you have some fun reading for the holidays. So let's cover the next topic then. So what about the challenges of not Windows 10 servicing alone, but also the servicing of Office 365, Windows servers, as you guys have mentioned?
Yeah, so maybe let me go ahead and share my screen here. Just share my desktop. Let me know when you see my desktop.
I can see it, Kent.
Yes.
You see it? Okay, so just because I love visualization, I'm going to pull up Notepad here. So when we talk about servicing, then to many organizations they don't really understand the full impact of what goes on when we are updating something, and often we are told by a vendor, you know what. You know, it's just an upgrade, like what Jason was explaining, and you know, it's a little tad bigger than the cumulator update, but it's kind of the same process. And it's not the process of the updates as per se that I'm worried about. It's more like when I'm presenting a new version of Windows 10, have I done any feature evaluation? Because before I introduce, let's say, 1803 or 1709 or whatever, there could be some dependencies that those dependencies could be external. It could be our domain. It could be the dependencies to our infrastructure. It's just not updating. Maybe going to 1709 actually requires, before we can introduce this feature, which is driving the whole upgrade, maybe that requires that we upgrade our forest functional level, for instance. And are we ready to do that? Well, maybe we can't do that because we have another application somewhere that doesn't work with that new force functional level. So as we are doing the feature evaluation, you need to look at, you seriously need to look at all the dependencies because they might, surprise you. Then for most organizations, we also have application owners. We need them to do some work here. I can't just upgrade to 1709 and then expect that everything works. Well, of course, I can do a pilot, I can test, but you don't want me to test 800 applications because I don't have the knowledge required to test 800 applications. When we are doing applications and when we are talking about objects or drivers, what have you, that can break during a process, one thing that if you haven't looked into that yet, but you definitely should look into in 2018 here, would be OMS and upgrade analytics. Upgrade analytics is it's that part is free. OMS, I know part of OMS you actually have to pay for, but upgrade analytics, as per se, that part is free, and it's a way for us to upload our information about our current drivers, our current application set, and what have you. Then Microsoft will analyze those data, and they will then give us information about, hey, this won't work in 1709, and that won't work in 1709. And so far, I have, in all the upgrades that I've done, all of them, we have found drivers that needs to be updated. So that's another thing. Normally, I know a lot of our organizations, they're only worrying about updating drivers if a driver is broke, right? Or if network comes and the network security team comes and say, hey, we have identified a security issue in that driver. You need to update your wireless driver. But now we might have to update our drivers twice per year. Obviously not all of them, but Upgrade Analytics will tell you what drivers are incompatible with the next version here. So upgrade drivers and upgrade the OS. All of a sudden, you have to test this on each model. So we are talking each hardware model that you have in the organization. Do you have that? Some organizations, they have hundreds of models. Obviously, you don't have 10,000 of each model, but you still need to test this, on all the models. You can't just send out a new Windows 10 version and then go like, okay, if it doesn't work, then who cares? Well, the end user cares, and that's another thing. We need to think about the users. Normally we go as, we're IT administrators. We don't really care about users, but we have to. We are going to interrupt the users here for, maybe 60 to 120 minutes twice a year if we follow best practice from Microsoft. And when I say best practice, just remember the comment that Jason had before, we don't like best practice if we don't understand why. So you should be updating twice a year, but you don't have to. And if there are no features in the next release that you really need, what are the consequences of not updating? You need to understand that. And the consequences of not updating the next version, but just skip a version, that will be content. So the CUs, they will grow in size. Right now, if you have 1607, the CU, meaning the monthly update coming from Microsoft, is plus 1 gigabyte. I don't remember exactly if it's 1.2 or something like that. So that you need to understand. If you're skipping a version here, there will be a cost to that. And again, that might not be an issue if you're a small shop with 500 machines all in the same location. But if you're, nationwide and you have limited bandwidth and a lot of devices never ever really connected to the office, but roaming around on the internet, that will be an issue, or that will be a challenge, and that will be one of the 2018 challenges that we have in here. So the whole servicing and Windows 10 management, you need to you need to come up with some kind of a cookbook or playbook, or how are you going to address the servicing in your organization. And there are a lot more items than the ones that I've just addressed in here. So yeah, don't think that Windows 10 is just another fancy version of Windows 7. There are a lot of features in there, and you need to evaluate those. You need to evaluate those with your security glasses on, and also, performance-wise. Be careful that you don't introduce something that will impact your performance. And I'm not saying you should not upgrade. just to say that you should evaluate it, but there is more to it than just upgrading. Yeah, sorry, Marcelo, back to you.
All right. So, and with that, we come to the last part of the challenges that we have been addressing, which is visualization and insights into the administration of configuration manager. Who's taking that?
Yeah, so I can take that. I'm actually doing delivering a project this week where this is something that we are talking about. Now, let's say that we are upgrading. All of a sudden now you have 4 different versions of Windows 10 out there. And some of those Windows 10 versions, they are coming from a bare metal deployment. Others, they are coming from that was used to be in bare metal and it was upgraded maybe a couple of times. And again, other Windows 10 versions in your environments might be you're testing out modern management, so you have some of your Windows 10 devices enrolled straight into Azure Active Directory and so on. Now, let's say that you discover in your environment, and you have 20,000 machines here, that you have 150 blue screens. 150 blue screens, that's not really that bad, is it? Except if those 150 blue screens are actually the ones that you upgraded twice and are now on this specific version. You get my point? So if you're not able to create some insights to, what exact version is having performance issues and where did that version come from? What was the original build? If you don't have that, if you don't think about that as you're creating your images, then you might be running into just another meeting where everybody is guessing. So again, let me just go ahead and share my my desktop here, and Jason, please feel free to jump in whenever you mean I'm saying something completely wrong. So the image version now we need to have some kind of naming standard, and that naming standard here to me is important. And this is not the computer name; it's just the image version. So the first octet here could be what is the major release that we have. So that would that could be Windows 10. What is the release we have? Well, that could be 1709. So let's just say this is Windows 10. And is this the type? So that could be 1 for an upgrade, and 2 for bare metal, and maybe you also want to know from where did you come from? What was your origin? Well, I originally came from a 1607 build, because once you have this information, then you will be able to easily identify those 150 blue screens and say, okay, those are the ones that came from 1607 and has been upgraded twice. Now, we need to do something about these, instantly. Maybe, complete rebuild or whatever. But without providing this insight here, it's going to be a big challenge. If I just jump into my my own environment here, then some of the things that Jason is talking about, and here we have at CT Global, we have a service called Insight Analytics that builds on data from Configuration Manager and from Azure AD and Intune. So as Jason is talking about the importance of patching, well, if I start by looking at my patch management environment here, I have a view that will show me that. Then I can see my compliance. So I can see my compliance is 48, 63, 63, and I can see my compliance. We actually control our third-party updates here with Flexera, so we're doing pretty okay here, 100% compliant on that one. But when I'm only 48% compliant, why is that? Well, it could be, as Jason was talking about, we have some clients that have WSUS issues, and if you're not able to easily spot that, then you will just be chasing ghosts as your manager is forcing you to reach 100%. But I can see here that with only 86% active clients, I will never ever be able to reach 100%. Well, how do I get the remaining clients active, and why are they not active? Well, that's another challenge, right? But right now I'm focusing on my patch management. Then I have some clients with WSUS issues. Well, why do I have so many clients here with WSUS issues? Well, I need to investigate that, and that could be, the client is not performing a successful scan. It could be maybe my WSUS, as Jason was saying, the application pool is not running. I mean, there could be a lot of different reasons behind that, but I need to have the insights. Otherwise, trying to find or trying to chase 100%, that's just a waste of everybody's time here. So without understanding what's going on, then we'll have a hard time. So that's why I'm saying, visualization and insights. That's one of the main challenges that we have. We have a lot of reports within SCCM. I think it's 400 plus, and I think I don't offend anyone by saying that the majority of those reports are reports that we never use. There are some really good ones in there, but there are also a lot of missing links in there, in my opinion. That's why you need to come up with your own visualization and insight solution, or go with the one that we have. And there's a ton of really neat tools out there like Power BI and what have you.
It's sounding, sorry for interrupting you, Kent, but it's sounding like we could have one webcast for each of these topics, and it would be enough to fill the time. Huh? There is a lot of good insight in there. So maybe this is something that if you guys in the audience are interested, you can just give us a signal in the Q&A, and then we can think about putting together some more specific topics for you to follow up on the talks that we are having here. So today our time is limited. We will come up to the time very soon, and we would of course like to address some of your questions. So the pictures that you guys are painting today, what does it mean for 2018 then?
So I guess I'll hop in on that one. I've been busy answering questions, so hopefully we'll get to all of those. But yeah, this was kind of my thought yesterday. My first thought when we were initially putting together the deck was, I guess, kind of the quote from the end of the original Terminator movie where Sarah Connor's sitting there, and I don't know, there's some weird Terminator quote about, you don't know what's ahead of you, what's on the road ahead, things like that. And while that's true, right, we don't have crystal balls. It's really hard to predict, what's going to happen in a year, right? We don't know if another WannaCry is going to happen. There's no way for us to know those kinds of things. But really, this is more of my theme. It's this, the future is so bright. So one of the things that I just put in one of the answers was, this was not publicized, right? They don't normally publicize this kind of stuff, but it's an important tidbit, is that the Config Manager product team recently moved under the Windows product team. So for those of you not familiar with where the Config Manager product team sat before, it has never really been part of System Center, so that's always right. That's always been a marketing term. But they've always kind of been off on their own, doing their own thing because they made money, right? So everyone kind of left them alone to a certain extent. But being alone also meant that they didn't have specific influence over other parts of the Microsoft ecosystem, right? WDS, the ADK. There's some very notorious pieces in there that have broken Config Manager in the past in various ways, and there's nothing that Config Manager, the product team itself, could do. Also, one of the kind of the thread there that led to me pointing that out in the chat window there was specifically around the things that Microsoft is putting in Windows 10. That Windows, they've always prioritized consumer-oriented things over enterprise-oriented things, unfortunately, because they just weren't enterprise-focused. The Config Manager product group now being part of the Windows team, they're actually part of those conversations now. They can actually drive those conversations, and they can actually make those changes. So I think Config Manager, the momentum's still there, right? We're still going to see probably our 3 releases, which is what we've seen every year, right? We're going to see lots of cool stuff coming. If any of you have seen the technical preview for 17.12, it came out, Friday, I think? They called it the MVP release because a handful of its MVPs, I think there were about 20 of us, went up to Redmond at the beginning of November. And we worked with the product group for a week, speccing out all kinds of new features or improvements. And so that's what some of those features are in that. Actually, most of those features, I think, are things that we worked on. Not all of the things that we worked on actually made it to that technical preview either. So it's really a concerted effort by the Config Manager product team to start closing these little things that have some pretty big ramifications, right? And some of those do, and making sure that people have the ability to manage their enterprise effectively. So that's Config Manager, but now they have the ability to do that on the Windows side as well, and to affect those folks and to, hey, there's these great new things like modern management coming and autopilot, and everyone's kind of geeked up because there's some kind of cool possibilities potentially there, but they just don't think through the scenarios well enough sometimes because they don't know enterprise, and that's where Config Manager and the product team is really, really striving to make sure that they understand those and to get other people's involvement. So to me, Config Manager is still the platform of choice for managing Windows, for not just the near future, but for a while to come. So if you're an expert in Config Manager, I mean, Config Manager is a great product, and definitely in my opinion, obviously there's a wide range of opinions there, but it's out there and it dominates for a good reason. And none of that's going to change. To me, it's just getting better. Hopefully Kent shares my opinion.
All right.
Whatever Jason says is right. The sooner you learn that, the better your life will become.
You need to tell my wife that one.
All right. So now we'll soon be entering a Q&A time. Let's see. I'm just checking now if we can run a little bit over time to kind of get to some of the questions. While you guys, if you have any other questions, please type them in now. While the guys will revise the chat and look for the questions and see how many we can address, I'll just give you a quick intro to Flexair and how we can help. I mean, we hope those webinars, because we have solutions that actually help address many of the issues or many of the challenges that System Center admins face, especially in 2 different areas. One, application readiness, so the readiness of your applications for your environment, so software packaging, application compatibility, Windows 10 migrations. We have, you might know about Admin Studio. So that is our solution for to support you guys in those issues. And we also have solutions for vulnerability and patch management, very specific to SCCM and to WSUS, so patch assessment for not only for Windows platforms, but also for Mac OS and Red Hat platforms, packaging systems for WSUS, and very important, non-Microsoft patches for Windows systems. So if you're curious about that, I'm sure we are going to follow up with you with some material on what we can use to help you with that. And having said that, what we are going to do is we are going to try to address 1 or 2 questions at least. And for all the other questions, we will include answers in the blog that Jason and Kent are going to put together following the webinar. Thank you. Jason, Kent, is there any particular question you would like to answer directly here, or should we just do everything in writing?
I think we're about a minute over right now, so I think let's take one question that just came in from Fatan, and then I think per Kent there will answer the rest via blog post. So
all right.
Fatan says, what is the best way to check which features we do not have enabled on Windows 10 and which features will be 1709 enabled? Not sure exactly where he's going with that one. I'm assuming that are you talking about feature updates there, Fatan? Or is there something else specific? I guess there's a couple people already jumping off for lunch, so it's good. Okay, feature updates. So which ones you actually have deployed and which ones you don't in your environment? Basically, that all comes down to the build number, right? Each feature update itself is a new build of Windows 10. And so that's easy. I'm pretty sure it's actually inventoried by default in Config Manager. So that sounds like a great follow-up blog post. I've been looking for an idea for a quick short one recently. And so look for that in the next coming week or so. I've got a little bit of time off here for the holidays. And so I will definitely post up, hey, how do we figure out which feature update that we actually have there? So, and it's an important thing, like Kent said, it's moving so fast that if we don't actually figure out what we have, we're going to leave somebody behind. We're probably, most organizations that have probably upgraded probably still have a few 1507s behind, and hopefully everyone knows 1507s are not supported anymore. So.
Yep.
All right.
Just a quick follow-up. So the information will, as Jason is saying, it's part of our inventory. It's part of our, it's part of also the discovery process. So the heartbeat discovery, which is traditionally configured to 7 days, and that's often a setting that we reconfigure to run daily. And one of the reasons being we want to get the feature information as quickly as possible. But that will all be in Jason's blog post, I presume. And now it will be.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys. So just to make sure everybody knows, we'll follow up. Hopefully we are going to get this blog out before the holiday, so you can guys read that and get some more knowledge from both Kent and Jason. I would like to thank you guys for joining us. It's always a pleasure to present with you. And yeah, we'll be planning some more sessions soon, and we'll let you all know. Thank you very much.